Josh. Thank you, Greg. Man who runs what I consider the best commission in all of combat sports. We're happy to be back here in Philly. And, you know, like Greg said, we've been through a lot of changes over the past few weeks. And it's been the craziest card ever with the most injuries, pullouts, but we managed to pull it off and keep a great card together here. Mike Pyle and Rory McDonald, Akiyama versus Vitor Belfort, and Tito Ortiz versus Rashad Evans. Just keep it simple here. Who's first? Who's got the first question? Joe?
Question for Tito and Rashad. Can you talk about the difference between this fight here and the last one? Rashad, you mentioned that, you know, when you were competing at that time, you're like, oh my God, I'm fighting Tito Ortiz, but sort of roles are reversed. You're saying Tito's saying that.
Yeah, I mean, when I had to fight Tito the first time, I was very young and impressionable at the time. And, you know, it's one of those growing pains in the sport. You know, fighting somebody like Tito Ortiz, legend in the sport at the time, and still is, it was very hard for me to kind of, you know, realize what was happening. And then the fight's over, I'm like, man, I could have really fought this guy and did a lot better. But those days are over. You know, I'm one of the bigger guys in the organization now, and I know what I can do, and I'm very confident in my abilities.
You know, it's nice to hear his confidence in his abilities that he believes in. Of course, my confidence is through the roof. My abilities was where I always wanted to be, before my surgery, and now my surgery is done. It's been a year and a half, and I'm very confident, as I say. You say, what's the difference between before and now? I'm a different person. Mentally, physically, emotionally, everything I've always wanted to be in for the UFC. Having Dana have my back, and UFC having my back, and being where I want to be, and being a world champion again, and that's facing against Rashad Evans. I mean, he's a former light heavyweight world champ, and so am myself, and I see some mistakes in his game, and he thinks I have mistakes in my game, but on Saturday night we're going to prove he's the best man with my hand raised.
Rashad, question for you, if I could. It seems like, you know, you have a lot to lose in this. Tito has won one fight in 5 years, and you know you were recently a champion, and you're taking a fight where he doesn't have a lot to lose, and you seem like, you know, you do. And so does that add any pressure, or does that affect you in any way?
No, I think we both have the same amount to lose. I mean, the truth of the matter, what it comes down to, no matter what happens after this fight, the bare essentials is this right here. Neither of us want to lose to the other person, you know. And when it comes down to that, nobody wants to lose a fight. And whatever happens after that happens after that. But for the most part, he doesn't want to get whooped by me, and I don't want to get whooped by him. So when it comes down to anything to lose, we both got the same thing to lose. We both don't want to lose.
You know, what's your response to that?
I don't think about losing. I mean, you say over the last 5 years, go look at those matches. Tell me which ones I truly lost besides, you know, Machida and Hamill. I lost some close matches, and you know, I come back after injuries I did. Athletes don't come back and compete the way I compete. I have some great things to achieve in this world, and I'm not done yet. You know, I want to show everybody in this United States and the world in general that you're able to compete no matter what surgery you have done, and I'm going to prove it on Saturday night.
And Dana, just if you can react to that, you know, especially from Tito's standpoint, you know, since he had the upset win over Bader, is it kind of weird to you that theoretically he could get a title shot being 2-4-1 in his last 7 fights?
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen. We'll see what happens in the fight. You know, there's no doubt he's the #1 contender. He's been sitting out for a long time. We were very fortunate that Tito stepped up and took this fight. You know, Tito went in and beat who many believed was the #7 ranked guy, this young up and coming light heavyweight, and it put Tito back on the map. Yep.
Mr. Akiyama. My name is Bill Yetzi. I'm from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Your record in the UFC is 1-2. Your overall record is 13-3. Do you feel that the UFC is more challenging than the previous organization in which you fought?
全然不安やったんですけども、秋山さんの成績はアメリカでは2勝1敗ですか、日本で13勝ですけど、前のオーガニゼーションに比べて、
Just put it up to your mouth.
前のオーガニゼーションに比べてこの UFC の方を、どう思いますか？
Hello everybody, my name is Sexy Amanda. やっぱり UFC はすごくレベルが高いですし、素晴らしい選手がたくさんいてるから、私は全力を尽くして戦ってますが、今の成績ではなくてもっともっといい成績を残したいと思ってます。
I am hello to the Philadelphia people, and I am Sexy Yama, and not instead Akiyama. I think it's UFC has an excellent athlete and competitor, and so I'm very happy to fight here, and I'm going to improve more.
You look at Mr. Belfort as one of your icons. How do you plan to beat your icon?
ビクトさんのアイコンをどうやって打ち破るかという。
とてもすごいストライカーなので、けどそれでもしっかり僕も打ち合って戦いたいと思います。
He's an excellent, strong and striker, but I will fight back.
Yeah, this is for Rory McDonald. I know that you got involved in MMA or became interested in MMA at a very young age, turned pro at a young age. Can you kind of talk about what drew you to the sport, and also being from Canada? I mean, were you ever involved in hockey? I know that's like the national sport.
Yeah, I was a very athletic kid growing up, and actually I was introduced to MMA by my father at the age of like 5 or 6. So I always had an interest in the UFC, but I found a gym at the age of 14 in the town I was living in, Kelowna, and I just fell in love with it and turned pro at 16 and just dropped everything else and just went 100% into MMA.
You said being very athletic. I mean, what other sports were you involved in? And was hockey one of the sports?
Yeah, hockey, soccer, baseball, everything, man. Track and field, everything I could just do to be active. Like, I would never sit down. I was a very hyperactive kid. When I'd get home, I'd just be running around the house, running around. Where I grew up, I grew up on a lake in a very small town, and I would just run around, go through the forest. I mean, I was doing everything, man. I was very active.
And one final thing, you're fighting a very experienced opponent, Mike Pyle. Do people maybe sometimes underestimate you because you are a young guy and you look your age?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of like, I'm sort of growing up a little more into my looks now, but like when I first started, it was crazy. I looked like I was 12 years old when I was 16, so I'm used to it. Like, people can think what they want to think, but when the cage door closes, it's man versus man. It doesn't matter what I look like at that point.
Question for Mike Pyle, please. Mike, if you look at kind of the theme of this fight, it's you're an underdog on paper going up against a guy that's got a lot of hype, younger guys. Is this kind of a theme that you're getting used to in your career?
Yeah, the last 3 fights that I've had have been I've been underdog every time. Those odds mean nothing to me. Whoever's making those odds, it doesn't affect me at all. I'm in the gym training all the time. I got some of the best coaches in the world, and I'm pushing all the time. I'm getting better all the time, and UFC has brought out the best in me. My loss to Ellenberger really woke me up and made me make a lot of changes, and I think it's shown in my last 3 fights.
Since we didn't really get to talk to you after the last fight, I was wondering if I could get your thoughts on your performances. I mean, it seemed like one of the closer fights. A lot of people thought you won. A lot of people might have given it to Ricardo.
Of course, you always want to get a finish. You always want to get a finish in front of the eyes of the UFC. But competition is tough. I'll take a win if I can get it, but I always love a finish. I wanted to fight. Almeida wanted to wrestle. Anytime we were, in any exchange, he was around my waist trying to take me down, which I had to try to, stuff that most of the fight. I hit him with some good shots. He was able to take it. It is what it is. I didn't get to finish. I wanted to finish. Could I have done better? I feel I could have done better, and that's why I'm back in the gym, working harder to make sure that I do finish.
And lastly, for Rory, it seems like this is one of the only fights that hasn't undergone any changes, so you've had some time to look at Mike and get to know his game. What can you say about him?
I don't really study footage of fighters, and I just work on my own thing and bring my own game into the fight. I'm not really too worried what he's gonna bring.
Dan, if you can just talk about all three bouts, starting off with the main event and the difficulties in putting it together, then just go through each bout and give us your thoughts on these incredible matchups.
Yeah, well, it wasn't difficult putting it together; it was difficult keeping it together. I say it all the time. Joe Silva's the best matchmaker in combat sports, period. And he gets out there, and when stuff starts falling apart, he's really the guy that's got to deal with that, not me. But as far as this fight goes, obviously, Pyle and McDonald, two tough, gritty, up-and-coming guys. McDonald has won. He's actually finished 10 of his last 11 opponents. And like I said, there's a lot of hype around this kid right now, but we're going to find out how good he really is going up against Pyle. Pyle's been on a run, and he's told me personally, this is my time right now in the UFC. This is my window. I'm taking this and going all the way to the top, so we'll find out Saturday night. And then Akiyama versus Vitor Belfort. I love watching Akiyama fight. This guy comes to fight, he brings it. And when the gentleman asked him earlier, about losing his first couple fights in the UFC and compared to his record, if you look at the fights that Akiyama fight, they were barn burners. I mean, I think his last 3 fights, he's won fight of the night. Is that right, Joe? Yeah. Fight of the night, his last 3 fights. So this guy comes to fight, he brings it, and I think that his style matches up great with Vitor Belfort. I think that Vitor's incredibly talented, has great hands, and Akiyama's going to make him use him on Saturday night. And then Rashad and Tito. Rashad's been waiting for a while to get a fight here. You want to talk about a string of bad luck. His has been a lot worse than mine has. He's, every time he's had a fight, his guys got injured or he's got injured, and he's been sitting out for like a year and a half now. And Tito's popularity has never been bigger. Tito hasn't been this popular since 2003. A lot of people that thought he was going to get finished by Bader, he came in and pulled off the huge upset. And I think a lot of people have gotten behind him and are excited about his resurgence here. So we'll see what happens on Saturday. Tito catapulted himself back up into the top 10 and stepped up on short notice and took this fight with Rashad Evans, which I give him a lot of credit and respect for. Yep.
Yeah, Dana. UFC gets great responses wherever it goes, anywhere around the world, but UFC 101, when you came to Philadelphia for the first time, can you kind of talk about the response that you got here then and what you expect on Saturday?
Yeah, no, it's great here. The thing that I love about Philly, and Greg said it before, is a fight town. Philly's famous for being a huge fight town. Some of the best boxers and fights have happened here in Philly, and I always say I'm proud to be the guy bringing big fights back to Philly, and the response here is always awesome. The last show that we had here was incredible. We had a blast, and we expect the same on Saturday night.